What's up, 444? We are back with the DFS MVP podcast for week 12. We are already to week 12 in this NFL season. Really looking forward to this bipocalypse, the first real bipocalypse of the season. We're down 3 games, so it's a little bit lighter than usual, but still we have 11 games to talk about when you include the FanDuel slate as well. I'm here, of course, with Davis Mattek. He is at Davis Mattek on the socials. Pat Kerrane, he is at Pat Kerrane on the socials. As usual, we're going to be going game by game. And if you want access to 4for4 for the rest of the year, the DFS subscription at 4for4 down to $24 for the rest of the season. That is honestly just an awesome kind of no-brainer deal. You get access to all of Matt Savoca's showdown stuff. You get access to my main slate stuff, my main slate articles where I go game by game, team by team, breaking down usage and
former millionaire
matchup stuff.
Winner Neil Orfield.
That's true.
Personal plays.
That's good advertisement there. Yes.
Why do you not mention that in every show you do?
I have not learned from Liam. Like Liam crushes just by being like every other sentence. Like I won this tournament, and I
don't understand why anyone would ever do anything differently. If I'm telling you guys, if I ever win Best Ball Mania, every title of my YouTube videos is going to be Best Ball Mania blank winner explains X, Y, and Z. It'll be in anything.
Good point. Kerrane.
Yeah, I don't really.
In my defense, Kerrane also does not like. Hey, I won Best Ball Mania 2 by the way.
Yeah, 3, I don't get it.
Best Ball Mania 3 by the way.
I guess as more distance passes, I probably should. It is like I don't, love Liam. I don't want to go where I'm constantly saying it.
There are people who watch your content or subscribe to Legendary Upside who don't know you won Best Ball Mania 3. I'd bet my life.
I bet you're right. It didn't used to. I think because I launched it right after I won, so there's sort of this I know I'm not gonna say it every day, but yeah, the more time passes, the more likely it is someone found me, just stumbled across my stuff and has no idea.
I'm positive people have no idea what my DFS history is who watch my stuff because I never talk about
Neil,
it.
People probably think because you're very kind, you're very gracious. People probably think oh, Neil's just one of the guys.
I mean, I am just one of the guys also, but I just have had some DFS success.
I just assumed you'd won $1 million, Neil. That's the vibe I get from you. Not just that you're one of the guys.
Yeah. I mean, there is obviously a balance between what Pat and I do, where we don't really talk about it at all, and what Liam does. Pat and I probably need to find a little bit more of a balance when we're trying to do content, get people to listen to us. Hey, I've had some success at this. You have some reason to want to listen.
I promise you, I would make Liam look like a choir boy. I might get BBM6 tattooed on my chest or something. I'm telling you.
I already put this comment up. DFS Temp says Davis will legally change his name to BBM6 winner. I mean, it would be a good content if Davis won BBM6. We were just talking about rooting against everybody who is not ourselves. But I think that I would think it was good content if Davis won BBM6. It would be pretty entertaining.
Let's see how Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley finish out the best ball season. Because if they crush it all the way through week 17, then I'll probably start mentioning that I was successful a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I looked at it earlier, and they both have really good playoff schedules. So
yeah. Week 15 is, I think, the week we need Saquon to bust. Because if he doesn't go out week 15, he's going nuts week 16 and 17, I believe. Yeah. We're really good matchups.
Yeah, I honestly have not even looked at whether I have any Saquon teams advancing. I probably do. I probably have some Saquon team. I don't have much Saquon, but he's advancing at such a high rate. Yeah, it's good.
He gets the Steelers week 15.
That's the one where it's you could conceive of him getting gummed up in that game of he gets 12 points.
But then, dude, he gets the Commanders and Cowboys.
Yeah,
that is just the worst.
That's our only.
If you are fading Saquon, if you're not, that is.
But
the best.
If you drafted a lot of Will Shipley, like us Sharps did, what
about
if Saquon gets hurt?
Yeah.
Good luck. Good luck to Henry.
Us. I don't think that's going to make me feel any better, but I'm still going to do it.
Before we get into the main slate, how did you guys feel about how Thursday night went with the massive snow game? Jaylen Warren kind of had a good game, not like a total blow up game, but it's a usable week for sure, especially on Bipocalypse. So
we'll take that, Neil.
Yeah, exactly. I feel good about that one. Davis, do you have a lot of Jaylen Warren also?
Yeah, I mean 40 teams or whatever in Best Ball Mania, so that was good. Although none of my Warren teams are really all that close. The interesting thing for me was I have some like managed league teams that might be good in some of these big contests, but I also, part of the reason they're good is I won Cedric Tillman that week after Cooper got traded, and I've been starting him. And I started him last night because I was like, Jameis does not care about this, bro. And I was right about that. Jameis definitely did not care about anything going on. He was hucking, but Cedric Tillman got concussed. So I have.
Now, would you care to address the charges that Jacob Sanderson leveled last night in the chat of ship chasing, that you unilaterally started Jameis Winston over, I believe, Sam Darnold?
Not over Sam Darnold. Not over Sam. Over Caleb Williams.
Caleb. That you're right. It's Caleb. Okay.
How many points did he put up? He
got 13.9, I think.
Okay.
He ran for that. He ran for that touchdown.
That's right.
He got a 2-point conversion right after.
Yeah, and he got the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, he had like 220 passing yards.
If I started him over Darnold, I was in the wrong, but I don't think we had.
No, he was Williams. Right, I misremembered.
Yeah,
that.
You know what? That's fine. Caleb Williams getting 14 would be like a huge ceiling outcome for him. So I think that's fine.
Made the right call.
Against the Vikings. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one for Caleb Williams. I think
Jacob was in our chat before James had the touchdown, being like, "I opened our team and James is in."
Well, he should have been more mad that I started Tillman over Worthy.
How many managed leagues do you guys do with partners, like with other people? Because I've never done a team where I partner with somebody else.
All my high stakes are with a partner. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Seems like it could be fun. I could see that being fun.
Well, if you're gonna do, like, I have like 20, maybe more, and if you're gonna do that many, what you need, this is how I do it, is like I will sit down and do all my waivers, and then I will ping my co-managers and be like, will you just check these? Like, will someone sanity check all these waivers? Because I could have done something wrong.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, let's get into it. By the way, I posted in the 4for4 YouTube chat. It's at the top. My tournament article, which I'm going to be going in the order that I wrote up the games in that article. So if you want to follow along, you can find that. It's also the 4for4 main page, I believe. Again, just $24 for the rest of the year for the DFS package, which will include both my cash game and tournament articles for the rest of the season. So check that out if you haven't already done so, and if you want access to that article so you can follow along. We're going to go in order here. First game that I wrote up was the Bucs at the Giants. The Bucs have an implied team total of 23.5. That's 12th out of 26 teams on the week. The Giants have an implied team total of 18. That's tied for 20th best on the week. Davis, I'll throw it to you first. Who do you like, if anybody, in the Bucs Giants game?
Bucky Irving is really about it. You get a little bit of Tommy DeVito if you run sim stuff. I'm going to pass on that. The thing that's very hard to contextualize about this slate is that you can kind of like a bunch of plays, but there are 4 running backs in this slate who project so much better than every other running back. Just before we started, I ran a set of 300 lineups and returned 4 running backs with 4 uniques turned on, by the way.
Wow.
That's kind of
like
insane.
I don't ever really remember it. And if you are just now getting to the slate, those running backs are Christian McCaffrey, Kareem Hunt, Brian Robinson Jr., and Devin Achane. So like, I like Bucky Irving. Do I like Bucky Irving enough to play him instead of Hunt? Maybe. I don't. Can he get? He can definitely get 19. Bucky can definitely get 19. Can he get 26? That feels thin.
Hunt's going to be really, really hard to get away from.
Yeah. With Pacheco out now against the Panthers, that's going to be a tough spot to pivot off of.
Yeah.
I'm curious why you're choosing Bucky over Rachaad White in particular. Like, to me, they feel like pretty similar plays. They project really similar. Like, different places have kind of the projections can swap at different sources depending where you look. So what is it that you like about Bucky over Rachaad
Evans
White?
Coming back is bad for specifically how White has been getting there, which is, one, he's been running insanely hot on receiving touchdowns. Like, he's actually getting the ball less and playing less. The big thing that happened was Sean Tucker didn't play before their bye. He'd been getting 10-15% of the snaps. So now that's gone. So he's going to project pretty well, but Bucky is going to get the goal line stuff, like the rushes, maybe not the receptions, but we are going to see, I mean, you have a 28% target share player coming back in the offense.
Yeah. So
I think just as big a deal would be just game script, like how much are they throwing to the running back versus having the guy run the ball. And Bucky's not an amazing runner, but he's still a lot better than Rachaad White at running the ball.
I just want to read this quote. I think that you're probably right that we're not going to have to worry about Sean Tucker going forward. But I just as I was doing my write up, I looked in the Coach Speak Index Discord to see if there was anything about this. And on what this is from offense coordinator Liam Cohn on what he found after self scouting the Bucs running back usage during the bye week. He said it's hard to get 3 guys 8 to 10 touches each. How do we make sure we leave each week saying, okay, Sean Tucker touched the ball a few times? That's something that we need to make sure that we do and get him involved in the game earlier on. So if he is running well and getting some juice, he can keep going. Maybe it's tagging some things for him just to make sure we can get him in and touching the ball. So they're at least like, for some reason, they still like feel like they want to get,
because he's good. He's a good player.
That's fair.
Yeah. He might be the best running back. Like, it's so funny the way this stuff works. Like, sometimes it just takes like so much to get the guy over. But like, I feel like there's worlds where if they gave him the ball, they'd be like, "Oh, we're just like not going to stop doing this." This is
I mean, we saw it. We saw it the week that Rachaad White was out, and we thought it was going to be Bucky Irving week, and then he actually ended up outscoring Bucky Irving. So yeah, it seems like they could play the hot hand there. I thought that was interesting. That like I thought he was falling by the wayside, but apparently they want to use all 3. Pat, how about you? What do you like from this game? If anything?
I think Tyrone Tracy is at least a little bit interesting. I wrote this game up and I was kind of like thinking through it. You know, a lot of times in the walkthrough, I'm really like focused on the stats and trying to find some interesting things that kind of fit together, matchup wise and stuff. But in this case, you know, you're more zoomed out. You're like, what's the goal of the Giants now? And I think the goal is to like not have it be a disaster to close the season so they can keep their jobs, sell a little hope to the owner, sell a little hope to the fans. Tyrone Tracy accomplishes that goal in 2 different ways. One, he's a rookie. He looks pretty solid. You know, they drafted him. You know, we can evaluate talent. But also, he shortens the game. Run the ball. Let's get out of here with a 3-point loss would be like a huge victory, right? It's a 7-point loss to live with, you know. So like get them out of this game without something embarrassing happening. They're obviously not going to want DeVito dropping back as much as they can get away with. So I think Tracy is like pretty safe. Now, you know, what Davis said about he's $300 more than Hunt. So I don't think I would have the stones to not play Hunt and play Tracy instead.
Where it makes sense is in lineups where you're fading McCaffrey. And you're like, oh, on this lineup, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play James Conner, Tracy, and Hunt. I'm going to spend up at tight end. And then, because it's such a way to build winning lineups is just to get in a slightly different construction than what optimals are giving you. And you could do that if you do no A-Chain, no McCaffrey. The downside there being you don't have A-Chain or McCaffrey on your team.
That is downside.
It's a real downside. I like those calls. I wrote up Tyrone Tracy. Like I think that there's a lot of concern that maybe Devin Singletary will take more of the role. I know he had like a game losing fumble last week, but I'm with you. Like I just don't. I've heard some talk about like, well, maybe they after the fumble, like maybe he's going to lose some of that role. I just don't see that.
What's the? I mean, I guess it's possible, but what's the point?
If he fumbles again, maybe like if he fumbles early in this game, maybe they want to punish him. But outside of that, like I think he's just the guy. Like he clearly showed that he has juice. Like why would they not want to continue?
It's to their advantage for him to be the guy. You know, if they're like, well, the only guy we trust in this offense is Devin Singletary, other than Neighbors. It's not a great look for Daboll.
Malik Neighbors looks like he's like pretty questionable right now. Is that right? I think that's the latest I saw.
Yeah.
He's got a groin thing.
Yeah, so DeVito, I think I'm guessing he'll be cash game playable. I have not run cash game stuff yet.
Got to be Richardson. Okay. There's just no need for it in cash. Like maybe you could talk me into it in tournaments. Like, oh, if no quarterback gets more than 25, then like 16 from DeVito could cut it. But like, I think DeVito could legit get like 4 points here. In
I mean,
cash.
for sure, yeah, that is true.
DeVito was real bad last year too. Pulling up the numbers.
He runs like a bit, but not.
He had a game with 70 some rushing yards. It's kind of nuts. I always write up more like the first game that I do. So I have probably more players here than I would have if this were like the second to last game on the slate, because I just like don't know the context of the slate yet. And there are some that I think are like sort of interesting. Baker Mayfield has just been really good this year and not getting much ownership, doesn't project very well, but I think he's just like kind of good, and now gets Mike Evans back. But also Mike Evans is like probably pretty limited, it sounds like. Liam Cohen said this week it's hard to tell how much he'll be able to go if he can go. So like I don't know how much I want to factor in Mike Evans, because it's like if he does play, he's going to affect everybody clearly, but maybe not to the full extent you would expect if he's just a part-time player. So I think Baker is sort of interesting. I also think Cade Otton, if that is the case, if Mike Evans is limited, sure, Cade Otton is still kind of interesting just given how good his role has been recently. I like the Bucky Irving and Rashad White. None of them targets in this game. And then DeVito I think is playable at 4,000. He's shown a little bit of upside. I wrote up Malik Neighbors, but at this point, if he's questionable at all, I probably just want to get away from that passing game just in general. I don't know that I want to play any.
I'm not playing Neighbors. I'd rather, if I'm playing a wide receiver who's really good, who hasn't gotten there this year, I'm doing Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
Anything else? I'll go ahead. Do you have anything else to say, Pat? Anything else on this game?
Neighbors says he's going to play, and from a season-long, redraft perspective, I'm like keeping the faith with Neighbors, but for DFS purposes, I'm with Davis. He's not the positive regression candidate I'm looking for, or the breakout candidate at that price.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Second game of the slate, Detroit Lions at Indianapolis Colts. Lions have an applied team total of 29. That is the best out of 26 teams on the slate. Colts, 21.5. That is tied for the 16th best on the slate. Pat, I will send it to you first. Who are you liking from the Lions and or Colts?
I like Montgomery here. We talked about running back being pretty condensed, and he'll be off the beaten path. And it's a very similar setup to the one that he just got 2 touchdowns in. The Colts are not a disaster against the run, but neither were the Jaguars. The Colts are vulnerable through the air. They're not as vulnerable as the Jaguars, but we get almost another 30-point implied team total here. We get a Colts team that's been a run funnel this season. Teams have, I think felt fairly confident that, they're not going to get a ton of points put up against them. And the Colts are, again, kind of mediocre against the run. So kind of a classic Lions type game. Like I expect them to lead, dictate the run from ahead, be efficient through the air. Goff last week had the highest EPA per play of any quarterback since going back through 2021, other than Jordan Love in his wild card round victory over the Cowboys. So he was like crazy efficient, and that's what drove that. Which he was going against the Jaguars. It wasn't a total shock, but I think that in this matchup with the Colts being at least functional in pass defense, they'll probably lean on the run even a little bit more than last week. So Montgomery, I think Gibbs is interesting as well. You could play it like last week and go to the passing game. And Amon-Ra, I definitely underestimated last week. I think Amon-Ra's okay, but it's more the running back. And then I kind of have a little bit of interest in Richardson as part of a game script where they're going to probably be forced to throw.
Richardson's going to be real chalk. Like I would guess the most owned quarterback. He's definitely going to be the most owned quarterback if Purdy does not play.
Interesting. Did you like him anyway, Davis?
Yeah. The question, I think I'll probably play him in cash. The question I have is, at what ownership does Richardson have to get to where you actually want to stack him? Because I would guess for the average chalk quarterback, what's the right way to phrase this? For the average most owned quarterback of a slate, I would guess he will be like an all-time low percentage of those lineups will include one of his teammates.
Yeah.
So at 12% do you include Downs? At 15% do you include Downs? At 20% do you include Pittman? You know, like that is kind of where it gets, and I really don't want to, because I know he did play well against the Jets. Like, he made that great throw to Pierce on the sideline and stuff, and Downs scored a touchdown. But, like, you know, we know what he is. He can still very, very easily miss. Like, just imagine the tilt of, like, you play him and Downs and he shows to red zone and Richardson just airmails, you know, wide open your guy. That's still who he is, you know?
Well, yeah, my suggestion there would be don't have red zone on.
Because, no, great. That's just good life advice in general. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I could. At the prices, it's pretty unappealing to stack him. I'd almost be tempted to go down to like an Alec Pierce or an AD Mitchell. Mitchell's not running enough routes, but I think he's good. So, and Pierce is at least cheaper. What are your thoughts on that?
It would definitely be Downs. I mean, Downs is definitely the one. He's actually been wide receiver 4 and wide receiver 11 in his last 2 starts with Richardson.
Yeah, that's fair. 6,200 kind of scares me off, but he's good. I mean, Downs is really good. So
he's just a good player, man. Yeah.
I think I'm probably, like, I wrote him up as a target in this game because I think, like, he's just an objectively good, like, point per dollar play, but I think I'm inclined to get away from it actually, because just if he is going to be the chalkiest play on the slate, I think that's going to be at least somewhat of a fade for me, because I always, and I've talked about this, I always like to stack my quarterbacks out, you know, limit the number of things you need to get right. So and also, like, he's a really volatile play. So to me, Anthony Richardson is like a player that you love to have at 0 ownership, but as soon as he starts getting ownership, it's like, well, he has 2 great games on the year, and then he has 3 starts where he scored single-digit fantasy points, another couple where he scored under 13 fantasy points. Can certainly fail. Of course, going up against the Lions, you have to imagine he's going to have to throw to keep up with them. But is that really how you win with Anthony Richardson? I guess it's one of the ways. I don't know. Just to me, it feels like kind of a spot that I probably fade a bit.
Yeah, and like Richardson's a guy that I've been bullish on in both of his off seasons, and you know, thought maybe he could take a leap forward, but he hasn't. And even with this game last week, I would say he really hasn't progressed, you know, to where we're feeling like he's one of these guys that we can really trust.
He did make 2 great throws last week.
Yeah.
The crosser to AD Mitchell and the 3rd and 13 to Downs. I was like, wow.
Right.
Pretty impressed.
No, so one of the reasons I've been bullish on him generally is that he has the ability to hit deep balls. You know, he's made even in college, he made really good throws on deep balls. It's just like he's really inaccurate short. I think one thing that's a little disappointing to me is that, like, as a rushing quarterback, he does seem pretty touchdown dependent. It's like a little bit more Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
you know,
he's right now he's like dime store Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
but he's 5,600. That's the thing, though.
True.
Right, but it can definitely fail. Like, he has to rush for like at least 1 touchdown, I think. And the hope was that, like, he would start passing the ball a little bit more like Jalen Hurts. And yeah, he's had 2 games where you could say, okay, but the games where it doesn't happen are like so far from, you know, feeling like you're getting anything through the air.
When I went to write it up, I remembered Scott Barrett, my friend, had tweeted out about how things had changed. The usage for Anthony Richardson was kind of bullish on the way they changed doing things. And I looked at the box score and I couldn't figure out what he was talking about, because it was like, doesn't seem like he's really running any more than he has been. He ran 10 times, but I went to find that tweet. And he had deleted the tweet, so I couldn't go see what specifically he had been talking about.
His designed rushes are up. His designed rushes are way up.
Okay. So that is, I was, because I want to figure out, like, why are people into Anthony Richardson this week after being off, not in for the past several.
Some of us are heroes and played him in cash last week, but then
that's true.
I played Anthony Richardson, but I swapped off of Juwan Jennings because I thought I was behind.
I listened to, or at least like half of your interview talk with Andrew Wiggins. I don't know that I finished it yet, but it was a great conversation. You talked about that a little bit. It's pretty ballsy to get on to Anthony Richardson in cash. So good for you.
Here's a great phrase when you're playing cash games. How bad can it be? That's what I like to ask myself. How bad can it be?
Yeah. I mean, you could lose all the money you put in, but I did that last night in DFS and pick'ems and flash drafts. Just everything was just awful for me last night. So I guess just kind of the same downside there. Anything else? Sam Laporta is down to 4,300. Like, do we start getting interested?
So it's like, one, I wanted to mention, I think same thing as last week. Like, you probably are entering plus EV lineups if you play one Lions running back in all your teams. They're going to be low owned enough because of all the other values. Their ceilings are really high. The thing you just have every week, they both kind of get like 20. What you just have to hope for is like you just hit the week that Gibbs has the efficiency spike and Gibbs would have had the 100-yard rushing bonus if his 54-yard reception had counted as a rush, as it should have. The ball was
almost
behind.
Like he's running across and the guy takes his feet out. Like that's almost a touchdown. There's the efficiency spike for Gibbs is so live because he's so good.
He's so good.
Just watch him and you're like, he is an efficiency spike.
I mean, the efficiency spike is live for Montgomery too. Like Montgomery is also very good. So they can both do it. I did want to mention Laporta though. It's like, oh, everyone's going to be falling all over themselves to play Schoonmaker this week, just like they did do Davis Allen and Hunter Henry last week.
Davis Allen was one of the all-time worst plays that
Kayshon Boutte. I'll take it to my grave. The Boutte was the worst of all time.
Yeah. I disagree with you because it wasn't just the one game. So you referenced that on your show. I actually played a lot of Boutte and felt okay about it. But you referenced like, well, that was just one game without Kendrick Bourne, but there were 3 games where he was like 85% route participation and
but look at the targets per route run when Bourne is in versus out. The targets per route run is terrible.
Yeah, but the targets per route run is misleading with Boutte because he's only been targeted by May. Brissett couldn't have cared less about it.
You know what, Pat? I'm going to say that I was wrong. I didn't game that out at all. I literally, that thought right there did not occur to me.
That's from film watching from always having May on one of the screens.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. He loves Boutte.
You know what?
Couldn't have cared about him less.
I'm wrong.
But I also want to defend my Davis Allen because he ran 84% of routes the week prior.
Not
2,500.
Yeah. It's not an attack on you. It's an attack on me who played Davis Allen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and said he was a good play last week on this show. Parkinson was benched, and then I was like, that's it. He's benched forever. Don't have to even worry about Parkinson.
We all thought that.
Yeah, and then turns out Parkinson catches the touchdown. And it felt like Allen was barely out there. I think Allen started the game and then wasn't.
He ran like 55% of routes, so like he was. Okay. I mean, he did. Yeah. He played a fair amount.
I don't know if you guys caught this, but on the Colby Parkinson touchdown, Davis Allen was leaking out and had no one in front of him.
Oh,
I did not.
And I thought when red zone flipped to it, and I was like, Davis Allen scored because that's the angle they're showing. I see 87 leaking out past the linebacker, and I'm like, oh my God, Davis Allen's about to score a touchdown. And Stafford just chucks it into the corner of the end zone. Parkinson has like this much space to get his feet down, and Stafford's like, yep, that's the throw. That's the throw I'm making. It was a really good red zone troll.
Yeah, that was I don't know their numbers. I just saw a guy who looked like Davis Allen scoring a touchdown. Yeah, okay. And I was like, yes, and then no, it was not.
That's why watching it live. I had the same reaction as you. I was like,
yeah, that was brutal. So the Lions, it's so tough for me every week with the Lions because it's like highest implied team total on the slate always. Like they just always have the highest total. It always feels good. Early in the week last week, somebody tweeted at me like, hey, I asked about could I play both of the Lions running backs, and it's looking really good. And we said, yes, you could. I think that's probably true again this week. But then it's like in the second half, you expect them to like just run it out. Like, of course, the running backs in the second half are going to look even better with this massive lead. And they just kept throwing on them. Like they threw touchdowns in the fourth quarter of a massive win. So it's tough. Like if it ever does consolidate on one player, that player's going to smash. It just hasn't really happened that much, and didn't really happen last week. Like several, I mean, I guess Amon-Ra ended up being a great play last week, as did Goff. So maybe I'm not right about this, but it feels like so many players are scoring.
You want to hear my run bad from that game? I was one of 98 users on Underdog and Battle Royale to draft St. Brown, Goff, and Taysom Hill together on the same team, and the players together with them were Justin Jefferson, like I don't know, some other loser and then some other loser. Like to the point that like the lineup would not have cashed like without like the last Taysom touchdown, despite having like the stone nuts. Like
those
just,
three,
the literal nuts, like the nuts.
Yeah.
The best nuts of the year.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I had multiple iterations of St. Brown and Taysom together and still didn't get there, which is, to be honest, doesn't make me feel that good. Gambling, it's just pretty hard.
It is hard. I was going to just note on the Lions, they had a 4% pass rate over expected last week, but they also had a 49% pass rate. They were just an insanely positive script.
They just scored on every drive. So like that throws everything all out of whack when you just score on every drive.
Right.
Yeah.
But they get this Colts defense. I mentioned that the teams have been running on them. They haven't had higher than a 68% pass rate against them all year. That was the Bears back in week 3. Next highest was 63%, which is actually last week by the Jets with a -4% PROE. Didn't exactly take to the air. Colts opponents have a 56% pass rate average over the course of the year with a -7% pass rate over expected and shifting 4% to the run from their typical PROE. So Colts are profiling as a run funnel. It's partly driven because they played Miami when they had Huntley and they went -21% PROE with 46% pass rate. They got Willis in week 2, 27% pass rate, -29% PROE. So those numbers are a little bit skewed, but you're not seeing, like, no team has really attacked the Colts through the air aggressively all season. And, you hear about the Colts pass defense being pretty weak, which it is, but it is like we're kind of getting a redo on last week's matchup. It's just like a little bit tougher of a defense. And I don't know. I'm like, I don't think we were wrong to be excited about. I mean, they rushed for 3 touchdowns. Montgomery rushed for 2 touchdowns and Gibbs had 1. Like, it was pretty good. It just wasn't amazing.
If I remember right, that was also before they had the massive lead, or like they scored those touchdowns in the first half. So it was like they're already crushing, and now it's like the perfect game script for them to continue crushing. And then they just decided, no, we're just going to throw touchdowns every time. Could have really worked out.
Well, those were massive yak play touchdowns too, a couple of them. So it also was like, again, like if the Jags are so bad against the pass, what if it's like that, but like they tackled them 5 yards from the end zone?
This team just slightly better. They're just going to tackle them a little bit earlier, and then they'll run it in. I like that. And anything else from this game?
No.
All right.
The Laporta call is interesting. I like that, but
just else. Cheap enough that he's suddenly interesting.
Yeah.
Tennessee Titans at Houston Texans. Titans have an implied team total of 16.5. That's tied for the 24th best on the week. The Texans have an implied team total of 24. That's tied for the 9th best on the week. Davis, who do you like in the Titans-Texans game?
No one. I can't imagine spending $8,000 on Joe Mixon, even if he might deserve it. And the Texans have no interest really in effectively forward passing. It's just hard to get an expensive wide receiver construction-wise this week. Like, how many times does this slate have to play where Nico Collins outscores, I don't know, let's call it McCaffrey, A-Chain. I mean, you could include Mixon in there too. It's just tough. Like, if I'm spending all the way up at wide receiver, I'm probably doing St. Brown or I'm probably doing Jefferson just for the leverage. And it's like those guys are better than Nico and have better profiles. It's like this is Joe Mixon is going to get 23 rush attempts. Somehow Dare Ogunbowale is going to score. Cade Stover is going to score. I don't know. And then like this whole Levis thing, like, oh, Ridley just like gets there every week. But then when he doesn't, it's like, wait, why did I think Ridley was going to get there? Like the joke's on me. Nick Westbrook-Akine scored a 98-yard touchdown. And that's on me for not knowing that was going to happen.
That was obvious. Yeah, of course. Pat, do you like anything from this game?
I like Mixon more than Davis. I think that they're going to be out in front. He's one of these guys that kind of medium ownership. And, maybe in smaller field stuff, people just gravitate to like the more obvious plays. And he gets, squeezed at least a little bit. He's not comfortable at 8,000. Joe Mixon at 8,000. Like if you've been playing DFS for any length of time, Joe Mixon at 8,000 is not comfy. I think this is a really bad spot for Levis. Like looking at his numbers, he has a 31% pressure to sack rate, which is really high. And he's being pressured on 44% of his dropbacks. The Titans are dead last in pressure rate. They're 30th in pass block win rate. They're 31st in time to pressure. They're going against the Texans pass rush. That's second in pass rush win rate, third in pressure rate, 10th in time to pressure. They're getting Will Anderson back most likely. Good defense, great pass rush. Guy who can't protect himself, gets pressured all the time because he's not being protected by his team. Also was looking at like some of these stats this week, kind of more when I was digging into Darnold, but I looked at quarterbacks who are what yards they're getting on throws that are 3+ seconds where they didn't leave the pocket. I was calling these statue yards. Levis had 38% of his yards from scrimmage on those coming from those statue yards last year, which is the second highest mark since at least 2017. And this year he's down to 16% from 38%. So it's way less, but the problem is that like, he's not making that up with like quicker throws. It's that they can't protect him. And so the thing that Levis kind of did well, if you give him a ton of time, isn't happening. So in this game, it's like, it's that, but worse, it's like he's going to have even less time to throw. And what he wants to do is sit back there, do a big exaggerated pump fake, and then chuck it deep, right? He doesn't have time to do that here. I think that the Titans could get absolutely wrecked by the Texans defense here. Texans defense is 3,600, so they're a little tough, but they're certainly interesting. And then Mixon is, I think one way to play that style of game script. We haven't seen the Titans and the Texans play yet this year. And I don't think Will Levis is going to like how it goes.
Neither of you have interest in Tony Pollard with Tyjae Spears out. Like the usage could be
in a normal slate. Sure, he's $100 more than Hunt. How many? What percentage of the time does he get more points than Hunt? And then are you made up in that discrepancy in ownership? I guess the answer is it might yes.
Be. Yeah,
like it will be. He'll be 3% owned. Hunt will be 40% or whatever.
Right. And he probably beats him more often than that. He probably wins 20% of the time, I would guess, something like that.
I think that's more of a larger field play in my mind. The Texans are good against the run, so it's not like but I could see it. It's Levis just surprises me with how efficient he is, and then Pollard's going to get a bunch of work, so you could see it playing out.
Yeah. Anything else from this game?
Not really.
No, this game stinks.
Yep. New England Patriots at Miami Dolphins. The Patriots have an implied team total of 19.5. That's 19 out of 26 teams. The Dolphins have an implied team total of 27. That's tied for the third best out of 26 teams. This is working out great because it is Pat's turn. He can talk about his Patriots. I like calling them Pat's Patriots, even though he reminded us last week that he's not actually a Patriots fan. Pat, how are you feeling about the Patriots and or the Dolphins this week?
Yeah, I'm not a Patriots fan. I root for them to win with my whole heart every Sunday, but I can't stand the Patriots. Good God. I'll start with the Patriots, I guess. I mean, Drake May, I think, is a pretty solid play this week. 5,500, not really going to be played. You could stack him up with Hunter Henry, who will be played some, but he's only 4,000. I think Ramondre's a decent play. 5,900. You do run into the same issue. It's kind of Pollard-y, you're I'd rather just play Hunt. The guy that really jumped out to me, and I already had used him as the cover boy for the walkthrough, so I didn't want to go back, especially because it didn't work the first time. I didn't want to go back to it, but Tyreek Hill jumps out in a big way. So the Patriots, they're not rushing the passer well. They're 24th in pressure rate. They're not an effective blitzing team. They're 30th in EPA per dropback when they blitz. And I wrote this up last week where I'm like, if you know ahead of time that you're going against this team that doesn't get pressure well, if you're one of these teams that's like really concerned about not letting your quarterback get hit or being able to protect your quarterback, which I think, the Rams have really struggled to protect Stafford and the Dolphins really do not want Tua taking hits. This is a spot where you can actually open things up a little bit more and attack the deep middle of the field. The Patriots are second worst defending the splash zone. And we saw this like last week. Kupp had that huge play, huge yak play down the middle on it was a 20-yard target, 20 yards downfield and over the middle. I think this sets up pretty nicely for Tyreek as far as like where the targets could go, downfield. Now, I expect the Dolphins primarily to be getting the ball up pretty quickly and running the ball, but I think they're going to pick their spots and try to attack the Patriots downfield and over the middle. Tyreek Hill also is running cold when you look at like his yards per route run. If you just look at his average step of target, which is 12.1, and his target rate of 22%, you'd expect him to be at 2.06 yards per route run. He's at 1.76. So he's actually running cold on his yards per target. And this is a game where I think it probably fits his skill set pretty well. So positive regression candidate Tyreek Hill, that sounds pretty fun.
I am also ready to martingale Hill. Like it just feels like he's too cheap for playing with Tua. Better role when he has Tua obviously at quarterback. Has not really gotten there as not says. Yeah, we were trying to make Tyreek work last week. RIP in peace. We're gonna do it again. Right? We're gonna keep martingale him. Do we have any concerns about like the wrist? Sorry, you go ahead with your
just
point.
One more thing on the matchup stuff is that the Dolphins have been pretty run heavy this season, even with Tua. Last week, they had a 6% pass rate over expected. And so that's like at least a little bit of a positive sign of like maybe now we go to a matchup where like there would be a temptation to open things up. And then we just saw them open things up a little bit more for the first time all year. So I still, I do have hope. The wrist, yeah, I thought about that too. Another reason I didn't kind of double down on the cover boy thing. What do you guys think about the wrist?
I'm playing it as though it's fine, but I don't really know.
Same.
Do you have a better take? Yeah.
No, I literally like forgot about it until right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you need a wrist to catch?
No.
I'd be really worried about Tyreek if he had an ankle, because that influences his quick twitch ability. But I don't know. Feel like the type of games where Tyreek like super smashes. He has no one in the screen when he catches the pass, like it's like they cut to red zone and there's just no defender in the screen when Tyreek hits the ball.
Also, like from Tua, I don't even know if you need a wrist with Tua because like so many of the passes are like hitting you in the chest. You're turning around, you're coming back to the ball. Yeah, it's not much like one-handed leading throws from Tua.
Yeah. HN obviously. Actually, Pat, do you have any other thoughts on? Is there anybody else that you like in this game?
HN, I think, is obviously the only reason HN doesn't really pop for me is that he's going to be very, very highly owned. But yeah. In my write up, I said Tyreek Hill looks like the highest upside way to play this offense this week, but HN's the safest. Receiving role is really locked in, 16% target share, which is running back 2, 24% targets per route run, which is running back 2, 1.69 yards per route run, which is running back 5. He's going against this Patriots run defense that's not good. They're 22nd in EPL per rush, 20th in rushing success rate against. Teams have kind of like decided what they want to do against the Patriots, and it usually works pretty well. The Jaguars went super run heavy against them, and when the Jaguars won that game in London, they passed 37% of the time with a minus 12% PROE. If you want to just and maybe McDaniel would like to do that, protect Tua, just beat the Patriots without really having to throw much. And then if they're willing to throw, like I said, I think a lot of the throws will still be quick throws, get the ball out of Tua's hands very quickly. That's something I wrote up last week as part of the reason that that Achane has been getting so many targets is that a lot of the offense is just like, we need to get the ball out quick. And I think there will be some of that with a little bit more deep stuff mixed in this week. So it's just like hard to see him failing, and that makes him a pretty damn good play.
Yep. Agreed. Davis, how about you? Who do you like, Patriots or Dolphins?
Yeah, I'm kind of woke to this idea of double stacking May this week. Cause I don't know if you guys have noticed, we get through this whole slate. We're keeping going through these games. Who do we like? Oh, the quarterbacks. Oh, the running back looks pretty good. Oh, the tight end maybe is kind of interesting. Wide receivers. It's crazy. Like, choose your projection provider of source and then go and sort by points per dollar and scroll till you find a wide receiver. And then scroll after that until you find a wide receiver who's not Jacoby Myers or Cortland Sutton.
It's rough. It's rough this week.
Rough. So Douglas, Booty, Bourne, Hunter Henry, these guys, like, one, they fill wide receiver slots that are like annoying to fill. And two, you could play them with Tyreek and A-Chain. Like, why can't this game be the highest scoring game of the slate? Tyreek scores a long one. Booty scores or one of the Patriots guys breaks off a long one. May connects on a deep ball. Like, we could be looking up at halftime and oh shit, it's 21-17 in New England, Miami.
I'm glad Davis is enlightened on Butte now. Great job there, Pat.
I still do prefer Bourne and Douglas, but I do want it on the record that I was wrong to say he was the worst play of all time.
good concession there. What do you think?
Yeah, and Booty, he had 100% route participation in week 10 and 98% last week. Bourne, he got like benched 2 weeks ago, but then he was back. He only had 50% route participation last week. Demario Douglas was only at 63% because they're running a lot of this 2 tight end stuff. Austin Hooper was at 46% route participation last week with Hunter Henry at 91%. So if you're just like, if I'm going to take the risk, I do think I want to go to Booty and Henry, the guys that I know are going to be on the field. Douglas, I think, is pretty good, but he's a slot receiver, and they've been experimenting with the 2 tight end stuff, so that's been keeping him off the field for a few weeks now. That was not a blip last week. He was only at 62% route participation in week 10. So maybe they go back to more 3 wide receiver sets this week, but it makes me a little bit nervous. Anyway, I do like the idea. I know it's shocking, but I do like the idea of double stacking May. That seems fun. Yeah, but I think for me, Henry like has to be one of the 2.
Yeah, I like including Henry in that stack. I didn't hear either of you mention Tua. Any interest in $5,800 Tua on DraftKings?
Sure. It's like if Tyreek gets there, you can bring him along. The other thing about quarterback this week is it's like all just very flat because we don't have Lamar, we don't have Hurts, we don't have Josh Allen, and Jade Daniels hasn't been running. So it's like, I don't know, 24 is probably good at quarterback, and a bunch of guys can get
Purdy officially out. Speaking of quarterbacks.
Oh, shit.
I just got the news that Purdy's out.
Shit. So that's actually huge.
Yeah. So who's the starter then for the Niners?
Josh Dobbs.
Fun. Oof. The Pastronaut. He had a couple good games for the Vikings.
So that changes a lot of stuff because McCaffrey now looks worse.
Yeah, good point. Wait, did we already do the Niners? Or no, we haven't done it yet.
No, we should do it right now while we're thinking about it, though.
Do you want to skip? All right, we can skip ahead to that.
We can come
let's
back.
Finish. I just want to finish just a couple. I'm curious if either of you are interested in, first of all, Ramondre Stevenson at 5,900. Like, is that just another, like, he's too close in price to Kareem Hunt, so you're not considering
it's Pollardy.
I
think he's definitely in play and probably like a pretty good large field play. But I don't know if I'll get to him or not.
And then the other one that I want your thoughts on, Jonnu Smith has been pretty great recently. He's been good with Tua. Any interest in going to Jonnu Smith here?
Yeah.
Tight end's kind of deep again this week. Like, it's deep flat, again. I would say. Like sort of deep, like sort of like just nobody's really separating. But I think Jonnu is very much in play.
Well, to answer the Tua question for me, I mean, I think Tua, Tyreek, and Jonnu is a pretty nice stack. The splash zone targets, I'm excited for Tyreek Hill there, but Jonnu Smith leads all tight ends in targets 10 plus yards downfield and over the middle. He's got a 22% targets per route run, which is 86th percentile at tight end. He's got 1.99 yards per route run. He's also 94th percentile in open score among tight ends. Like, this dude has been having a really good season. It's just that he hasn't been out there consistently. That's like, we couldn't count on route participation. We thought we could count on it, and then it would disappear. He was at 92% route participation last week. So if we just like buy into that, I mean, it is a bit of a leap, but like if he's going to be out there for 85% of the routes this week, I mean, the matchup's really good. I think May, even if you're playing Tua, I think you feel good that like May can help push this game. He's aggressive. He's trying to win these games, make plays. He'll also probably turn the ball over at least once. So you're going to get a short field maybe for the Dolphins. So I like the game environment, and it's a kind of a clean double stack in a week where we don't have much of that, as Davis was saying.
Just while we're here, I have to mention, I just remembered had some trauma remembering last week. I built out a lineup that was a Jameis Winston double stack with Judy last week, and that was going to be my 555 milli lineup. Like I built it out. I was like, I'm going to enter this in the 555 milli, and then I pivoted on the morning of to a Tua double stack with Tyreek Hill, and I went with Jalen Waddle because it was such a great matchup. And I was like, at some point, he's got to break out, right? Like Jalen Waddle is going to become relevant at some point. Is he just not? He's just not going to be a thing this year.
Yeah, I don't. The efficiency is like not even there. Like you look at his stuff, and Tyreek's a big positive regression candidate, and Waddle just isn't. His 1.35 yards per route run is like exactly what you would expect. It's like actually a little bit higher. It's a little higher than what you'd expect.
It's just insane.
For his target rate.
I just don't understand why. Like he didn't get injured. There's nothing that has led to like Waddle being significantly worse than he was last year. Yeah, it's brutal. But yeah, obviously lesson learned. So maybe we just go to Jonnu and or Tyreek and or Devin Achane in your Tua stacks, and that could work out. Do you want to do the Niners game right away since we just got that news, or do you want to wait for like projections to update so we can have a better idea of how these things are being projected? I could go either way if you'd rather just get it out of the way.
I think I know how it's going to be projected, which is that their team total is going to get murdered. I mean, here, let me pull up Pinnacle right now and see when they go back online. But my gut was like, oh, they're all unplayable. Josh Jacobs, like whatever. And I think McCaffrey, obviously, like the thing that could be sick.
They dropped to a 21-point team total.
I mean, that's not
too high still.
I was gonna say that feels.
It was 23, but it was 23 when I wrote this up, and that was I think Purdy was already questionable, so I wonder if that had already been like sort of factored in.
Packers line moves to Packers -3.5, and the 49ers. Yeah, I mean.
Still pretty high.
The question that I have. Oh yeah, Bosa's out as well.
That's a good note. Yeah.
The question I have is Jennings in play?
Right. It changes quite a bit.
Because Jennings was like, oh, I'm playing him over Myers. I'm playing him over Sutton. I'm playing him over Calvin Ridley. I'm playing him over Hopkins or whatever. And I don't know, man, because Brandon Allen stinks.
So it is confirmed Brandon Allen.
That's what everyone in the chat is saying. Yeah.
Maybe against Brandon Allen. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Is the Packers defense good?
I can tell you schedule adjusted. Yeah, Pat, do you want to give your by your metrics?
No, go ahead.
Well, just in terms of schedule adjusted, and this is at 4-for-4. They have schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed ranking. Quarterbacks, they are 12th, and this is they're 12th best at stopping it. So like the higher number means it's a better spot for the offense opposing it. They're 12th against quarterbacks, 12th against running backs, 7th against wide receivers, and 26th against tight ends. So tight ends, the one spot that they have not been good in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. So theoretically a good spot for Tucker Kraft, and everywhere else it's a slightly negative matchup according to schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed, which can be misleading as far as like how good the defense is. It can be like this is how teams play against the defense, so that's going to affect the fantasy points scored. So it obviously is good to look at the actual defensive metrics that Pat likes to look at too. And you also say that they're pretty decent. Looks like
they're decent. They're a weird one where they're 10th in EP allowed per dropback, but then they're third worst. They're 30th in dropback success rate against. So I kind of look at them like they're fine. They're okay. They've let up some explosive passes, but they protect the deep middle of the field pretty well. They're pretty good against first reads. Not a great pass rush.
Okay, I completely memory wiped a game that Brandon Allen had when he was a Cincinnati Bengal, where he threw for 371 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Dang.
We're back on. Tell everybody we're back up. We're playing.
I mean, this was a long time ago. This was in the COVID year. This was in the crazy COVID season where everything was like Giovanni Bernard played in this game. That's how that's how long ago it was. Yeah, I wonder if because Dobbs is on the practice squad. I wonder. I don't know. The thing that would be most interesting to me would be if CMC goes to being like a quote unquote leverage play. Like, buddy, I do not care who CMC's quarterback is. Like, if CMC is 11% owned, I mean, there you go. It's like nice and easy.
My initial read on this game was that the 49ers were going to try real hard to get their running game going here. The Packers aren't that great against the run. And, that's been the key thing with the 49ers is that they had the best run game in the league last year. And it's okay. It's not bad, but it's not what it was. And they get a Packers defense that's 21st in rushing success rate against and 14th in EP allowed per rush. So, and McCaffrey was much better last week than he was 2 weeks ago. At minus 34 rush yards over expected in his week 10 return with a 7% success rate, which is like 30 is bad. And last week he was at 7 rush yards over expected with a 44% success rate, which is good. So he kind of shook off the rust a little bit, maybe. And, now I thought they would be building this game plan around him to try to get him going here. On the other side, the Packers have been conservative all season, even with Love. They had a 51% pass rate last week, 58% expected pass rate. So, minus 7% PROE. It's been pretty consistent all season that they're operating like this. And the 49ers aren't that good against the run. They're 20th in EPA per rush and 22nd rushing success rate against. So I kind of wrote this up as a Josh Jacobs big workload game. And, maybe that's the if 49ers are without Purdy, that's only more likely. But in a way, that's good for McCaffrey. If the Packers aren't going to go very aggressive on the other side of this, maybe it kind of stays closer than it should.
Who benefits the most from Nick Bosa being out? Does Josh Jacobs get a big bump there, or is it just the passing game? I guess I would assume obviously the passing game for the Packers should benefit from Bosa being out. But I would think Josh Jacobs also does. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, Jacobs just has to be the beneficiary because this is going to be a game that the 49ers are pretty heavily favored to win. I'm trying to think is it even going to matter though? Is the Jacobs equation either he scores twice or he doesn't? His usage is really that binary?
Maybe, although he's been decently efficient as a runner. He's got a 45% success rate, 17 rush yards over expected per game, which is running back 5. So he's he's rushing dependent. And so, yeah, I mean, you probably for DraftKings, we probably do need touchdowns, but I think you could get he could hit the bonus. You could get the bonus with Josh Jacobs for sure. Both sides just looked up. He's 10th among edge players in run stop win rate. So he's not just a pass rush element. It is probably at least, minorly beneficial for Jacobs.
Okay. Good note. Yeah, I mean, so people, a couple of people asked in chat, does this downgrade players with Brock Purdy been out? And yes, Scott asked, do you downgrade all Niners players now that Brandon Allen is starting? I think yes, pretty clear.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, even CMC, I think that the ceiling is still there for CMC, but I think the floor gets a lot lower without Purdy there. So yeah, it's definitely a downgrade to everybody. Man, it's really tough. Jawan Jennings was going to be a priority. Is he still playable? He's still 5,600.
He's definitely still playable because you're getting a huge ownership discount now.
Yeah, true.
So he is still playable. I don't want him to be a core play anymore though, which then just makes the slate hard.
It does.
Now I'm just well, shit. I don't know. I guess I am just playing Kayshon Boutte,
Right.
Drake made double stacks, baby.
Drake made double stacks did just become more.
Are we tripling him? Are we throwing in Douglas?
Why not, man?
Yeah, just avoid the rest.
The other option is
the
other option is Brandon Allen's number 1 wide receiver.
Well,
Brandon Allen, dude.
I would, I'll know with Jennings, his first read target rate has been pretty good this year. He's at 18% for the season, which, given that he hasn't been out there in a lot of games, is, impressive. This is not, for much of the season, they were not game planning with Jawan Jennings in mind. The last 2 weeks, he had a 25% first read target rate and then 24% last week. I do think that that's helpful with the backup quarterback. You kind of want to have a good sense that the targets are designed to go his way. Kittle's at 15% for the season. Deebo Samuel's at 12% for the season. And again, Jennings is at 18%. So, like, not to say he's locked in as the number one or anything, but it is, I think he's probably like the top option in the downfield passing game at this point. And Purdy and Kittle really seem to have a connection, that would be, I think I'm probably most worried about Kittle as I go to the backup. Now Kittle's, he's got such a ceiling. That's always dangerous to say, but being honest, that's who makes me the most nervous without Purdy.
I feel like I always like my instinct is to downgrade. So you say like Jawan Jennings is the downfield threat. My instinct is to, like, if we're playing with a backup quarterback who maybe can't throw it down the field as well, my instinct is to downgrade Jawan Jennings in that case. Whereas like Kittle, it's like
he's not a deep threat. He's got like a 10.6 ADOT.
Gotcha.
He's a tradition. I mean, I say that to kind of differentiate him from Deebo.
Okay.
Yeah. But he had a 7 ADOT last week, 8.2 the week before.
Okay, that makes sense then. Not great for Kittle, obviously. Downgrade for everybody. Are you guys doing any of the Jaden Reed? I mean, Jaden Reed scored a touchdown immediately last week.
Reed is like my favorite play, and I loved him last week. And then he gets there, and then they run 44 plays on offense, so he doesn't get there at all, which is very frustrating because he was like unowned. He was like not drafted in the battle royale games and stuff.
Yeah,
kind of annoying. But I mean, he's cheaper this week. He's cheaper, dude. It's crazy. He's 5,900. He's the same price as Calvin Ridley.
Easier matchup without Nick Bosa. I think he makes. I like him better this week than last week. I don't think I ended up actually getting to any last week. I think I might actually try to like force in a little bit of Reed this week. Doesn't project extremely well, but I still think the talent is there.
Yeah.
And the price tag is pretty nice.
By the way, Love had a 95th percentile EPA per play last week against the Bears. So he had 20 dropbacks. So that's the issue. But like, it's still it's good, right? That he, against a really good defense, that he was that efficient. So, I mean, it's a tricky slate. It's not a spot where I go, the Packers, they're going to be aggressive here. They're definitely gonna be efficient, but they what if they are? Because Love and Reed are both very talented.
You know what I just realized? I do a DFS cage match show on Wednesdays, which is honestly before I do any research on the slate. But there was a player that I drafted there that I didn't even write up as like a playable play, but he must be 4,600. Romeo Doubs has to be like at least somewhat in play, right? At 4,600, or has the usage changed? And
he's running a ton of routes still.
Yeah, so that's. Am I crazy to think 4,600 is like a nice enough price tag that we need to at least be considering him for GPPs?
I don't think that's crazy.
Okay.
No, I mean, he seems kind of strong.
Yeah. And he doesn't project that well. So I totally missed it as I was doing my write-up, because like I kind of start by looking at like, all right, who projects well point per dollar. And he did not, as far as I remember, show up in any of those metrics, which okay, he's not far down. So maybe this is just a miss on my part. But 4,600, looks like a nice price tag for Romeo Doubs on DraftKings. I'll have to add him to my
now. Here's a question. So DeVito, I'm out. 4K Brandon Allen.
I mean, the weapons are so good. The weapons are so good that I think you need to consider it.
That is such a classic. He could be anything, even about because
he could be anything, even Brock Purdy,
even Tommy DeVito. It's just like the fact that I haven't seen like if Braylon Allen had played like 6 games last year, I'd be like no, but he didn't. So I'm like,
right. So we just don't know.
He has not played since 2021, and he was the 3rd string quarterback for the Bengals last year behind Jake Browning.
Yeah.
What if he's Sam Darnold? Sam Darnold was like written off. He's so terrible. You can't play Sam Darnold. He's an awful player. And then suddenly Sam Darnold's in a great system for quarterback.
The thing is,
was like a top 5 NFL draft pick at one point.
So the thing is Brandon Allen can't fool me because I watch college football. So I watched a good bit of him at Arkansas, which again was a billion years ago. 2015 was his final season in college, and like he had like some crazy bad games in college, like watching him lose to like Texas Tech and stuff.
How big are his hands? Because that was always Evan Silva's bit. These baby hands.
The PSM model is that?
Brandon Allen is so old. He played against Mahomes in college.
No, he has sub 9-inch hands. It's like a real thing.
That's a real thing. He has tiny hands. I didn't know.
He has tiny hands. Yeah, he has 8 and 7/8 inch hands.
Okay.
Which I think 9 is pretty. I think Pickett has 9-inch hands.
Just doesn't work in the NFL. You got to be able to grip that ball.
It's a bigger ball. It's a bigger ball.
That's
no. Pickett's hands are actually smaller.
Oh,
that's why it didn't work.
So you can play him. Bigger hands than Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett surely had a good game at some point, right?
I don't know that he ever did.
I don't know if he ever did.
I don't know if he ever did either, sadly. But I think the weapons are good enough, and like could just be like a dump off to Christian McCaffrey, and McCaffrey does all the work for a 60-yard touchdown, right?
Man,
like, at 4,000. The weapons are so good.
It's crazy, dude. Like the 49ers are like not going to make the playoffs if they lose here.
That's a good point. I had been drafting them a bit in playoff best ball stuff because I thought like, they're the 49ers. They're good. They're probably going to make the playoffs, even though the numbers say that they won't.
Yeah, Purdy must be. Where did this come from? I didn't.
I don't know. I was not anticipating. He was questionable yesterday.
He was questionable. It was like one of those things. That, like I wrote it up as like, Purdy will play.
Yeah.
Damn.
Anything else from this game?
No. I think we did it.
All right.
Yeah, I think we did it.
All right. I'm going to move back to our regular scheduled programming. Where do we leave off? Scrolling back up in my article if you want to follow along. Okay, we did Dolphins Patriots. Next up would be Cowboys at Commanders. The Cowboys have an implied team total of 17. That is 23rd out of 26 teams on the slate. The Commanders have an implied team total of 27.5. That is the second best on the slate. Davis, I'll go to you with this one. Do you like, or who do you like from the Cowboys or Commanders?
Brian Robinson Jr. I'm not Daniels. The rushing is so far down since he injured his rib. The deep passing, the deep passing rate is down as well. So it's like, can he throw 4 touchdowns? 1 to McLaurin, 1 to Ertz, 1 to Noah Brown, 1 to Austin Eckler? Maybe, but like it just feels very similar to what we just saw with the Cowboys on Monday night. No need to pass the ball against them. You just hand the ball off and watch your running backs go. It's Schoonmaker.
Right.
He's our generation's Davis Allen.
Kind of insane. Like the usage for Schoonmaker, 10 targets last week on 46.8% route participation. Not what you expect from Luke Schoonmaker, but good for him.
Yeah, he's been targeted when out on the field. On the passing stuff, I will note that the Texans had a 25% PROE against the Cowboys on 1st and 10 and 8% overall. So the problem with the Cowboys is like they can't push back at all, but they're not good against the pass. They have a really bad secondary. Pass rush is pretty good. They're obviously terrible against the run, but I could see Jaden Daniels being efficient here for sure. This could be kind of a get right spot for his efficiency. Do we get enough of a ceiling at 7,000? I don't know, but I think he's definitely playable as a bet that they are, and frankly, one of the things about Daniels is that he's never protected himself, so like so you see he's going to keep running less. Like that could be a blip. Like this he's down to do dangerous stuff. So maybe he does run a little bit more. The other thing with Daniels is that his deep pass rate hasn't been that high all year. He's just really effective when he passes deep. He's got a great deep ball. His EPA per play on those deep passes is excellent. He's quarterback 5 there on 20+ yard throws, but he's only 10% deep pass rate this year. He actually has a pretty strong showing since the ribs injury. He was in the 94th percentile in EPA per play against the Giants. So it's not like he's been a disaster since then. And, you just get it's kind of Lions-y last week where it's like this defense doesn't stop anything. What if they pass, Obviously, Robinson is a great play, though.
Yeah, Robinson is a cash game lock. Looks like a strong play overall. Probably doesn't get as steamed as he should because of Kareem Hunt being there.
Well, maybe people shy away from McCaffrey now.
Right.
True. Good point. Good point.
I think they probably do a little. At least.
I think they do for sure. Yeah. I guess I shouldn't say for sure, because there might be people out there being like, now they're not going to throw. It's going to be McCaffrey all day. They're going to jam the volume. So maybe
people. How many people just do what the computer tells them?
Most people, I think.
Well,
no, not most. Right. Not most. Maybe most lineups, but definitely not most people. Probably not even most lineups. In large field stuff.
What about Dowdle? Can we do it?
Pollard yes. Bucket.
Yeah, he's in the Pollard bucket for sure.
He is in the, but to me, the answer then for me in large field tournaments. So I guess this is again comes back to I play large field stuff. You guys play smaller field stuff. For large field stuff, I think both of those in that bucket. That's a playable bucket for large field tournaments. 55.
You know what it feels like to me? There's like, this usually happens earlier in the season, but there's like, you write up the game and you're like, for anyone that I had any respect for, I would say this guy's a great play. But then it's like someone, it's like Najee or like,
and
like I'm just like, I'm
player.
It's not a good matchup for Najee because I don't like him. And then that's the week that Najee like actually runs efficiently and scores 2 touchdowns. It's week 12. We've got a pretty big sample of Rico Dowdle not playing well. He's running back 37 in rush yards over expects per game. Got a pretty weak, not terrible, but not good 37% success rate. They're not giving him like that many carries. We're probably talking about like 12, 13 attempts, he's on a terrible team. So, but like the Commanders are the run funnel right now. Opponents have a 55% pass rate against them, -9% PROE, 6% shift to the run. The Ravens were the first team to go pretty damn run heavy against them, 50% run rate or 50% pass rate. Since then, 51%, 54, 53, 47, 50 PROEs of -6, -9, -12, -10, -14, -12. Like there's not like no one's experimenting. It's all just you run on the Commanders. They're 30th in EPL per rush, 27th in rushing success rate against. They've improved against the pass after a really rough start. So, I probably don't play Dowdle, but it's just so easy to see like, the guy in like the rushing matchup scored a couple times.
They also, the Cowboys coaches for weeks now, months maybe even, have been saying, we need to establish the run. We need to run more. Like they keep saying like, oh, we need to run more. We really need to establish it. They finally, a week or two ago, said, Mike McCarthy said, we need to get Rico Dowdle the ball more. Specifically said Rico Dowdle, and then just exact same usage last week as every other week. But I'm still like, I'm sort of hopeful that they keep saying it. Now he gets the nut matchup where you can just run all over them. Maybe they finally do what they say they're going to do this week. And just, if he is running well, like I think they've kind of abandoned it because it hasn't been working. But if it is working, I would think that they do just continue to run it. So to your point, I think that like certainly playable in large field GPPs. But I get not wanting to go there in smaller stuff.
I might play down. I'm gonna think about it up until Sunday morning. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good spot to be.
To the people. Yeah.
I am into Jaden Daniels. Like I understand like the rib, the concerns over the rib. Like maybe he doesn't run as much, but I guess it's just for large field GPPs. Like we know that he has that atomic upside. He's shown it in a small sample size. So I will do that. I'll even do it with Terry McLaurin, I think. Because McLaurin just not getting any ownership. So for large field GPPs, I'll play some Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown playable, 22 targets on 76.9% route participation over the past 4 weeks, 4 games. Zach Ertz is 3,800, falls into the bucket of like playable tight ends, I would say. Any CeeDee Lamb for anybody?
That's a very Leone play, isn't it?
Going
Lamb?
to
yeah.
No, because he only projects okay. I'll tell you a more Leone play is Tua, A-Chain, Tyreek, Jonnu.
Well, that's just what I'm going to do.
Yeah, that's just a more Tyreek play.
I think I don't know what a Leone play is in this context. Like I know Leone likes the like older.
He likes the old, but he also Leone I've noticed tends to go for the wide receiver. And this works a fair amount of time. So this is not derogatory.
I mean,
he tends to go for like the really good wide receiver that no one's playing. Now, normally he picks like CD when he's like more expensive and Dak is available.
Right.
But you have, you know, a ceiling here theoretically with CD, and he's not going to come with any ownership.
Right. Yeah. And kind of a lower price tag. Yeah. And Leone, very sharp. So I think Leone play seems like it's probably a good play.
Yeah. I'm just like, I couldn't. Often when he like identifies one of those guys, my gut on it is like,
no,
yes, but I'm not doing that. And then it usually hits. So that's why I jumped, because like I have such a hard time thinking about actually playing CeeDee Lamb this week. But like it does make
Leone doesn't care because he, like, I was talking to him yesterday and he's like, dude, I don't even know what prices are. I just project. Like I just figure out how many points these guys should score, and then I show up on Sunday, and that's when I like find out what the prices are.
Well, he does a podcast on Saturday,
and that's when he finds out.
Okay.
That's when he finds out. He's like, oh, so we do have CeeDee Lamb as a good play.
Yeah,
interesting.
I mean, that's a kind of my. I mean, it's not too dissimilar from what I do. Is, you know, today it's Friday is when I start looking at the pricing.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to do the projections before looking at the pricing, and then kind of see what you like after that. Anything else from the Cowboys Commanders game?
No.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think so. I mean, I guess if you're into McLaurin, you could consider Ertz at 3,800.
Yeah. He's just in a like playable bucket, particularly if you are game stacking, you could throw him in there, but not with any enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Minnesota Vikings at Chicago Bears. The Vikings have an implied team total of 21.5. That's tied for 16th of the week. Bears implied team total of 18. That's tied for 20th of the week. Kerrane, do you like anybody from the Vikings or the Bears?
You guys have a read at all on this Aaron Jones usage stuff? Because he was down.
He just goes to the tent every game.
Yeah.
He just goes to, he's in 4 different games. He spent at least 2 drives in the tent.
Yeah. If he is good to go, I mean, this sets up, I think, pretty well for Jones. He's going against the Bears run defense that's not that great. They're 23rd in EPA allowed per rush. They're obviously very good against the pass. I wrote up, I talked about this Will Levis, idea of these 3+ second throws where you don't leave the pocket. Sam Darnold has the highest rate of those, his statue yards makes the highest percentage of his scrimmage yards of any quarterback since 2017, 39%. The way I read this as I was digging into it is like, these are kind of the quintessential quarterbacks who are like made by their situation. Jimmy Garoppolo in 2018 is 3rd on the list. Brock Purdy in his rookie season is 4th. Jared Goff in his 2018 peak with the Rams is on here. Matthew Stafford in his 2021 Super Bowl season with the Rams is on here. So it's not like, oh, Darnold stinks, but he's like definitely a product of a situation. Is like,
yeah.
So what you really would not want then is for him to go to a defensive matchup where they're going to be able to like pressure him constantly, because part of that situation is a really good pass protection unit that's been good even without Darisaw this year. But the strength of the Bears is actually not their pass rush. They're okay. They're 12th in pressure rate, but they're 21st in time to pressure. So I basically came away thinking like Darnold will be fine here, even though the matchup's tough. But I could see them leaning a little bit more on the run, given that the Bears are much better against the pass than the run.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I did not write up Aaron Jones, but obviously playable with the volume that he gets. I wrote up several Bears. Do you have any interest in any of the Bears pass catchers? Like it's sort of, I struggle with it.
DJ Moore, man, the whole offense is built out of screens and quick crossers. They just don't want Caleb to get sacked, and Caleb is not wanting to find the check down. So I think sort of intelligently, they were like, how do we solve this problem without kind of breaking him? Like, oh, we'll just give him a bunch of quick reads and tell him it's fine to run. You want to run. You're pretty good at it. There was like a 3rd down last week where he he just saw the linebacker move and he just snapped the ball and went. Like he ran like a quarterback blast. And I was like, wow, you would not have done that a week ago. I guarantee that. So yeah, DJ Moore. I mean, wouldn't it be great to play Justin Jefferson in the slate? It'd be so fun.
Low ownership. I would.
That's more of the Leone play. That's the Leone.
Yeah. No, because checks for like 16 points because they just don't. They never have to throw.
Yeah.
Like they are an above PROE team, but they never have to throw because their defense is so good.
Yeah, their expected pass rate is always so low. So like PROE only helps you like 5% PROE. Great. Well, that got you to 50%. It's not that helpful. To the screen point, 7 screens last week. That matched Caleb Williams' screen attempt total over the previous 3 weeks combined. Shane Waldron, what a genius. But I do think, so Moore benefited a lot from that. I also think that Rome Odunze is at least a little bit interesting here. The targets have kind of been going his way a little bit more, especially the first read stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I think like if you're looking at the design stuff, I think that'll favor DJ Moore the most. But I also think you could be looking at Thomas Brown trying to get Rome Odunze more involved downfield. He did lead the team with 10 targets last week, and 6 of those were first read targets. So he's, a part of what they're trying to do as well.
I initially wrote up this game as you can completely ignore the Bears on this slate. And then I went back and was like, looked at it a little bit closer. I was like, God, like they're all just like playable to me. Nobody I'm like super excited about. Nobody stands out from the group of Odunze, Allen, Moore. I wrote up Caleb just because it was like, I'm writing up all 3 of his receivers, but pretty strong usage over the past 4 games since the Bears bye week. 81.5% route participation for Odunze, 29 targets for Keenan Allen on 88.3% route participation, 25 for Moore on 95.7% route participation. So it's like none of it is like this is amazing usage, but it's all like Lad McConkey-esque and like good enough, I would say.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's one of the spots.
Well, split. It's just like get Keenan out of here, and all of a sudden, we're cooking.
Yeah, would love that. And it's not the worst matchup with the Vikings. So yeah, I think it's playable. Davis, did you have anything else on? Do you like any of the Bears or Vikings?
I really like the Bears defense and the Vikings defense.
Bears defense stands out.
Again, like the context is late wide receivers, they're thin everywhere, but DJ Moore, I do like. DJ Moore is like a legitimately good play.
Yep. Okay. All right. We'll move on to Kansas City Chiefs at Carolina Panthers. The Chiefs have an implied team total of 27. That's tied for 3rd of the week. Panthers 16.5. That's tied for 24th on the week. Davis, what are we doing with the Chiefs and or Panthers?
I would not play any Panther for any reason. Like,
yep,
you've got Brooks active, so Hubbard's best case is like 75% of a backfield that allowed. James Cook had 18 points with 2 touchdowns against them. They just you just don't get fantasy points against the Chiefs. Wide receivers don't get fantasy points. Josh had a freaking 30-yard rushing touchdown, and I'm pretty sure he had 19 on DraftKings. It's just kind of the way the game. It's just the way it goes. Look, I would love to say, oh, the Chiefs, they're mad, they lost, they're gonna go hard. No, they're not. They're gonna run. You'll get a spike week. Out of one of Kelsey or Worthy will have a spike.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like Worthy was on pace to actually like have a smash last week. And then this is my read on what happened. If you want to psychoanalyze the Kansas City Chiefs, is Mahomes did not want to put that ball where it could have turned into a touchdown for Worthy because it brought in the chance that the defensive back could have caught up with him. So he put it in the only place the defender couldn't get it, which is towards the sideline. But then Worthy just has no attention to detail. So he's out of bounds again. So Mahomes is just like, dude, I'm done with you. Like, bring me Hardman. At least I can predict how Hardman is going to screw me. I never know how you're going to screw me. Because Worthy, the quarter before, he gets smoked between the 2 safeties and just pops right back up. And he's like, all right, guys, let's go.
Davis, I got one for you. Xavier Worthy is the Jonathan Mingo of Tyreek Hill's.
That's exactly who he is. That is exactly who Xavier Worthy is. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Could not be more accurate.
Great.
I think I sort of understand that one, so I feel good about sort of understanding that one.
The thing is though, is he's 5,000, dude. So they instead of keeping him at 6,100 where he's been, it's like, dude, I get it. If you want, and you know, Purdy's out, so like, wow, I don't know, quarterbacks like, do I really want to play 22% on Kyler Murray or whatever now? I don't know if I do. You could definitely get away with the Mahomes double, because the other thing is, the last month they've shifted away from all the crazy red zone rushing a little bit. Like the thing with why Mahomes was so bad for fantasy was like, I believe he went a month without a passing touchdown.
And it used to be the other way. They used to do all sorts of fun stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the Chiefs, so they had a 75% pass rate against the Broncos, 66% expected pass rate. So they're +9 there. And then last week they were +11, 68% pass rate on a 57 expected. So that's Chiefs-ish. That's like 2021 Chiefs, 2020 Chiefs. It's pretty exciting. I don't know if they'll stick with that here, because you don't have to pass on the Panthers at all, and they're a major run funnel because their run defense is so bad. But like, what if you just did? You know, what if you just got because for the Chiefs, like, this is almost an exhibition level opponent. Like, can't you work on Worthy's footwork here? Like that would be a good use of time this week. So I don't know, with their, you know, moving back toward the pass over the last 2 weeks, it gives me a little bit of hope that they just attack. I mean, it's not like the Panthers are good against the pass. They're horrible against the pass. They're 31st in EPA per dropback. They're allowing explosive pass plays at the highest rate in the league, 27th in dropback success rate. Their pass rush is a joke. They're 31st in pressure rate, 28th in time to pressure, 30th in pass rush win rate. Like, you don't have to worry about this team through the air. Like, you can do whatever you want against the Panthers. We did just see the Chiefs maybe want to pass as they prep for the playoffs. Like, get your passing game going. Get some chemistry between Mahomes and some of these guys. You know, I'm definitely just wish casting this, but it would be fun, wouldn't it?
I'm also wish casting this, but I'm right there with you, Pat. To me, that's getting me on DeAndre Hopkins a little bit. Like, I know his route participation was really down, like 54% or something last week. Yeah. So I get like not wanting to go there. He doesn't project extremely well and anything like that. But like the game before that, he saw 9 targets, and like everybody wanted to play DeAndre Hopkins. I still like. I think that this is me again, probably just wish casting, but it's like the Chiefs probably aren't going to do anything fancy against the Panthers. They're not going to show any like surprise plays that they're going to want to use in the playoffs. They're just going to play it straight up. And to me, that's like DeAndre Hopkins, just like throw it to DeAndre Hopkins, just like the easiest spot, as opposed to doing like trick plays with Xavier Worthy. Like, this would be a spot to just like play vanilla, just
Kelsey in any harm. Like,
yeah, exactly. So, so I don't know. I like DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not sure that it really makes sense, but it's just very much a do whatever the hell you want spot, and like getting Mahomes and DeAndre Hopkins like on getting some chemistry there would make a lot of sense to me. So I'm probably just wish casting, but I think that coming in kind of pretty low owned. So I really like DeAndre Hopkins here,
and leverage, like the whole passing game being pretty big leverage on. I mean, not that you couldn't play Hunt and Mahomes together, I guess. Mahomes is, he's only 6,800. You could do that pretty easily. But yeah, I mean, if you were to go like Kelsey, Mahomes, Hopkins, that's pretty big leverage on. I mean, Hunt's going to be like massive chalk this week.
Yeah. Davis, do you think we're
rightfully
being too
so? The thing that I'm bummed out about is that I wanted Pacheco to be active in this spot,
so you could play Hunt.
So I could play Hunt. And obviously I'm still going to, but it's going to mean that I'm sharing with 40% of my friends and not 10% of my friends or whatever. We'll have a chance next week. Well, I don't know. I think maybe they play on Thursday, actually.
Oh, do they?
I haven't looked.
They said someone said something about a short week. Oh no, they don't play on Thursday. Thursday's Thanksgiving. They play on Friday. They play the Black Friday game.
Yeah. Okay. So you just want to play Hunt? You're not with us on the passing game at all, Davis?
No, I'll do. I don't know. One of my teams will be Mahomes, Worthy, Kelsey, and that team will lose, and I'll have to late swap on it, and life goes on. It's a circle of life.
We're all gonna lose anyway. as the
you can't not play Mahomes in this
against
spot.
the Panthers. Yeah, I did look this up when I was doing my write up earlier. They gave up 21 points to Marcus Mariota, who like in no way, shape, or form was even trying to score points against them. You know, like he was just hanging out, and he got to 21 points.
Brutal.
He's just hanging out.
You think Mariota, like Mariota was the meme of that guy on the couch drinking the beer? Like, who, me?
Yeah,
when he had to come in that game?
Yeah.
Like I know Cliff Kingsbury put a play call into him to run a zone read, and Mariota like did like deep groan, just like, ugh. A zone read with Jeremy McNichols. Why am I still doing this? Why am I not retired?
I finally watched that like short clip of that guy, the guy who does the pointing to himself thing. I never knew what it's from. I finally watched that a week or two ago. Very funny. Good little clip.
I know. I hadn't seen that either. And I saw it for the first time. It's actually pretty funny. It's a fun little sketch. It's not like just some random picture.
I know. I thought it was just some like random dude. And then it's like, no, it's him being drafted to the NFL, but he doesn't know why. And like,
right.
It's pretty funny.
And he doesn't want to go, but he has to pretend he's excited. It's a pretty funny little bit. With Mariota, like, he's so like long past the point. Like no one's at the game, right? Like none of his family or friends are at these games. Like his backup quarterback. Like, what do you think? He's like calling his wife on the way home from that game, like in the car. Like, I played today.
Honey, I did good.
Well, pretty good.
Any other Chiefs or Panthers? Nobody wants to play Panthers. I'm assuming we're not doing like Jalen Coker, Pat.
No.
If Thielen's out, out.
Canal said he's going to play.
Okay. Well, that kills that. But if he's out, he's out, I'll promise the people, in addition to thinking about playing Rico Dowdle, I'll be thinking about playing Jalen Coker.
Nice.
Coker's been kind of good. He's been kind of good when he's out there.
BHO Kevin, I'm just here to show Neil Orfield some love. Appreciate that. Appreciate you, BHO Kevin.
I mean,
thank you for showing up.
The crew? How about the crew? Okay.
just me specifically.
Just Neil? All right.
All right. Broncos at Raiders. We've got two of the better value wide receivers in this game. Broncos have an implied team total of 24. That's tied for the 9th best on the week. The Raiders 17.5. That is 22nd best on the week. Pat, I'll let you go first for this one. Who are you playing, if anybody, from the Broncos or the Raiders?
God. I mean, Bowers is the man. Yeah, so he's a good play just because he is Brock Bowers. I think Nix, I believe in Nix in this spot. I wrote him up and was kind of saying, okay, 1, they're protecting him super well. 2, he avoids sacks really well. He's making plays. He faces a difficult pass rush, but I think he's like shown the ability to overcome that now. And, you know, if the protection holds up, if he avoids sacks as usual, the Raiders are vulnerable in the secondary, so he can make plays downfield. His time to throw is also sped up a little bit over the last few weeks. He's had some of his quicker time to throws recently. So I think maybe he's speeding up the processing a bit as well. I don't have a ton of interest in his receivers, though. That's what makes it more difficult. So it's really Bowers. I also would say I don't like Javonte very much. He's coming off catching some passes, regaining some playing time, but a lot of his stuff was checkdowns, and I think they're going to have to be getting the ball a little quicker. I don't think he's going to have a lot of time just to sit back there and dump it off after hanging out, behind the line for a while. So they haven't really done all season, like get the ball out quick to the running backs. That hasn't been a part of the game plan. So I think Javonte, not that he'll be played, but, I wouldn't buy into that last week usage.
I wouldn't either. We all like drafted the running backs over the summer because that was going to happen. Like, they're just going to target the running backs constantly. And then it just has not been the case. It's been super frustrating. It's
a Knicks thing, I think. I think it's a kind of a trait of his.
I thought the whole thing was like in college he did target running backs. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't watch college.
He did a lot of design stuff. I thought it was like a lot of screens and stuff, but like he kind of takes on pressure, but then he avoids sacks. I think he's just good at kind of like scrambling, moving around, but he's like looking to make plays instead of just checking it down.
Yeah.
Or scramble.
Before I send it to Davis, I want to address a couple things in chat. First of all, Soupy Dumpling said, "Isn't Coker out? He is, as far as I can tell, questionable as of today with a quad injury. I don't think he's out yet, but yeah, I think today is the first day it's questionable, so that's a good note." Pat did successfully guilt BHO Kevin into sending another super chat to say, "I love Davis, he knows, and Pat too." So I appreciate you, BHO Kevin, for showing support for all of us. Zach Martin out, says Stephanie. That can't be good for Rico Dowdle. That's a good note from Stephanie, who I believe is a Cowboys fan, right? So
she is, yeah.
She knows for Cowboys.
Yeah.
And then Zen says he's really digging my hat this time. I got this for free.
I like the underneath.
Yeah, the underneath is cool. It's very much fits my flannel. This is a free hat like a couple weeks ago. It is Native American Heritage Month, and I got this for free when I went to a Timberwolves game. They were giving out these hats. It says it's like Dakota for Big Wolf, according to the white guy who gave me the hat. Who he looked it up on Google, so who knows if that's true? But like they're trying to say Timberwolves in Dakota.
It's not a tattoo, you didn't commit to it, so it's
yeah, right.
It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Davis, do you like anybody from the? I mean, you talked about the
Bowers,
projections
man.
on. Is it just Bowers? You don't want to play Jacoby Myers? You don't want to play Cortland Sutton?
No, dude. You know how non-woke I am to Jacoby Myers. Like last week, I played Jacoby Myers, and just immediately I was like, "That's not you, man. you need to be better." Jacoby Myers is so not me.
Yeah. What if he was on the Chiefs though?
Then he'd be Justin Watson. I don't know.
No, he'd
be great. He'd be great on the Chiefs.
He'd be great.
If you told me that Jacoby Myers was a Leone pick, I'd be like, yeah.
Jacoby Myers is a very well. Actually, the thing though is he won't be because 27% of his 27% of his friends are going to be playing him.
Exactly. Yeah. He's too chalky, I think.
Oh yeah. That's a good point. So it's Brock Bowers for you from the Raiders. You're not doing Cortland Sutton, Davis. I mean, pretty similar feeling to me in some ways.
Sutton, I like a smidge more because I like Knicks more than I like Minshew, and you could talk me into playing. You could talk me into playing Knicks.
You could talk me into playing Knicks too.
Yeah, I mean he's been pretty good. Hard to argue with Knicks being.
What about Vele?
I thought about it. Doesn't project well enough that I felt forced to write about it. So I was like, yeah, I'm just not going to write about Devon Vele. It just doesn't excite me. But the matchup is good enough that I think you can consider.
He's running routes. Like he's out there, not a ton, not like Sutton is, but he's been kind of moving up in playing time the last few weeks.
Oh, this is a good note question from Soupy Dumpling about Amir Abdullah was announced as the starter. With now we have both of the Zamir White and Alexander Madison are doubtful. So it sounds like Amir Abdullah, maybe not announced as it, but I saw one of the beat writers or something said Amir Abdullah would start. That's a good point. I might have to think about adding him to my write up now that the two starters are doubtful. But it's a really tough matchup with the Broncos. So it's like hard to get really enthusiastic about it. I assume he's like
4,300 though. Yeah.
Well, I'll just tell you this: if you're undecided on if you want to play Amir Abdullah, I have 80% of the other running back for the Raiders on
the dog
my big board teams. So think about how my season has gone, and then think about like, oh, that would be really good for Davis. So just think about that.
This is how you want people making their DFS lineup decisions.
I'm doing my best.
How good it is for your big board.
If I can't, no. If I can't win, then someone else.
I see. Then you should play Abdullah so that someone has some joy.
Antonio Pierce did say they asked him about Labby this week, and he said we don't give up on rookies. So
okay.
You know that Labby has one snap, right?
On the season, is that? I didn't know that.
And he fumbled. Yeah, he has. Because it's funnier to say one snap. I kind of did the Davis thing for a while. I was saying, I was just like, I'm going to say one snap because that's hilarious.
It is literally one.
It is literally one offense. He's played on special teams, but it's one offensive snap all season, and he fumbled and lost the ball.
Me and Davis, me with Michael Herbert, Davis with his Dylan Lobby. Just like you get one chance, you fumble it, you're done. Those are our picks in best ball.
I would love for him to redeem. How fun would it be if he just rumbles this week?
Could happen.
Himself.
I mean, do we have a lot of confidence in Amir Abdullah? I don't.
I mean, I'm definitely
really.
I'm definitely winning the big board if Laube smashes. Like, I'm definitely winning the big board if Laube is there's not one person who's more financially invested in Dylan Laube's success other than Dylan Laube.
Davis, you interviewed Dylan Laube, right?
I did, and he's hilarious. I can see the Raiders just being like, we just want him on the team because he's like a great locker room guy. Like, you're our fourth running back. You're never going to play, whatever. Like, he's just so funny.
He's been paying his dues on special teams too. Like he could get some run.
Yeah.
I mean, Abdullah, he could. I think the way that Abdullah gets there, probably just catches like a bunch of passes, right? Like he's like 6 catches, and
I mean, he's got a receiving touchdown last week.
Yeah. So I don't know. I suppose you could do it. He doesn't like. He's not exciting. In part because it's hard to know how much run he gets versus Laube, and Laube's a pass catching guy too. But would you be shocked if it's like 70% Abdullah and they just like throw to him a bunch? Like
that is exactly what it's going to be.
Okay, well then he's
you're hoping for, at 4,300. That seems pretty playable. It's tough because there are so many other good running backs. Again, you have to sacrifice Kareem Hunt, or like there are so many of those like 55 to 5,900 running backs that look pretty good to me. Devin Achane. It gets a little bit easier to get away from McCaffrey, but he's still going to look good. So it's just an opportunity cost is the real issue with Amir Abdullah. But I still think playable. Like he could get 16 fantasy points, and that could be enough. Like if the wide receivers go off unexpectedly, some of the higher end. So I think playable, but not like a huge priority.
I agree.
All right, let's move on to Arizona Cardinals at Seattle Seahawks. Cardinals have an implied team total of 24.5. The Seahawks 23. That is tied for 13th best on the slate. The Cardinals were tied for 7th best on the slate. I've gotten to the point now where I forgot who I went to first last time. So I'm going to go eeny, meeny, miny. Pat, who do you like from the Cardinals and or Seahawks?
Kenneth Walker was the cover boy this week. Not like the most obvious like smash matchup for Walker, but it's a good matchup. And I think a really good matchup for the Seahawks offense as a whole. And they haven't been as pass heavy as they were to start the season. The pass rates over expected have been like pretty normal. And in fact, leaning to the run over the past 2 games, -6% against the Rams, -3% against the 49ers. That stretch where they were very passive, it kind of ended back against the Giants in week 5, or maybe the Bills in week 8. Last time we've seen that. But if you look at the passing matchup, I think it sets up really well because the Cardinals don't have a pass rush. And Geno Smith has been dealing with a lot of pressure this year, but he's been pretty good from a clean pocket. At the same time, the Cardinals are 26th in EPA allowed per rush. They're 26th in rushing success rate against. So just kind of like an offense that should be moving the chains, sustaining drives. Kenneth Walker still has a 13% target share, which is running back 7. Running back 11 in targets per route run. He's got a 41% success rate, which is solid. Running back 16 in breakaway yards per game. Running back 6 in elusive rating. He's fallen off significantly in rush yards over expected over the last few weeks. He at one point was crushing. He had 44 rush yards over expected through week 7. And then he's had -42 over the last 3 games. So just horrendous efficiency over the last 3 games, but gets a really good matchup in an environment that I think will kind of help the offense overall. And so I think he's a pretty interesting play as one of these guys that's in the mix of, this big group of running backs that looks pretty playable and will get played some, but he's 6,900. And you're psyched to play Hunt. He's almost coming preloaded. And then you're probably, going down. You're not going to go up to 6,900 in a lot of cases. You're going to be more in the low 6s, I think. So I wouldn't be surprised if Walker got squeezed a little bit. I think he's got a really high ceiling, given that he's an explosive back who catches passes in a good matchup.
Yeah, been really involved in the passing game recently. I like that call out of Kenneth Walker. Are you doing anything else with Seattle? I mean, Geno, I think is going to be one of the highest owned quarterbacks on the slate. He's only 5,700, projects really well. DK, JSN. Anybody else for you on Seattle, Pat?
Those are all good plays. I think those are all. I mean, Geno, like I said, I think he's set up really well here. I believe in the JSN breakout that we're seeing. He's definitely distanced himself from Lockett. I think it's Metcalf and JSN now. JSN's has been a little bit more of like underneath. So 2 weeks ago, he was getting targeted like deep downfield, helping fill in for Metcalf. That was really cool to see. Metcalf comes back. It was more underneath targets again. And so I think a little bit more dependent on there being volume in the game, but there should be some decent volume in this game. So I don't mind him. And like one of the cleaner double stack opportunities that we have this week, Geno, Metcalf, and JSN. Geno's not very expensive at 5,700. So yeah, I think playing the Seahawks one way or another makes a lot of sense this week.
And then you didn't mention any Cardinals, and I have interest in the Cardinals. I'm curious if you are just out on them completely. Do you have any interest in Kyler, McBride, maybe Harrison for a post-bye rookie bump, James Conner, anybody that you like at all from the Cardinals, or are you out?
No, I think Conner's a really good play. Go ahead, dude.
Marvin Harrison, man.
Let's go.
6,100. 61 and go pull up his next gen stats route charts. Go check him out. Week 8, then look at week 9, then look at week 10. They were on the bye last week. Kyler said this on his YouTube channel. He said basically he went to Marv and was like, "This is not working, bro. Like, we got to figure this out. So let's go watch some film together. Let's figure out how I can help you. How can we get you the ball where you want it to?" And Drew Petzig and Kyler and Marvin, they changed his routes. And now he runs slants and he runs some corner routes. The touchdown he had in week 10, it was like this really nice late breaking. And then Kyler threw it before he'd even made his break. So he really trusted him to be in the right spot. And he caught it over the shoulder. Nice touchdown. I think the back-weighted production for 1-2 turn Marvin Harrison Jr. I think we're here. I think it's coming.
Yes. I mean, he's been good, man. Like,
turns out he's a good player. Turns out he's a good player.
We are like, we did this to ourselves. Like,
Yep.
the feelings we have about Marvin Harrison are our fault. Like, he is a rookie who has 1.90 yards per route run. That's 77th percentile among wide receivers. He's got 22% targets per route run, which is 77th percentile. First read target rate, he's 89th percentile. Like, he's a huge part of what the team's trying to do, and he's been very efficient. This is a lot like what CeeDee Lamb looked like as a rookie in terms of yards per hour. And like, this is a very strong rookie season, a guy that we should be really bullish on going forward. It's just that we demanded immediate stardom.
We demanded he was Jamar Chase.
Yeah, that's a pretty right away. Yeah.
And in week 2, he looked like he was. He had one week there.
Yeah, I like that. I like that call.
Track record with Marvin Harrison calls. Week 2. That was my flag.
That's
player.
right. That's right.
That's right. That's right.
Go ahead, Pat.
I like this game overall. Yeah, I didn't want to kind of drone on too long, but I think James Conner and Trey McBride are also good plays. I think Kyler Murray's a good play here, and I like the Harrison call. So there's just a lot. This is like the one game where it's just like a bunch of stuff. Other than the New England and Dolphins game, I kind of feel somewhat similar about. But this game is a little bit more. You don't have to project it as much in your mind. Like, there's just a lot of good plays here. Looks like it's two teams that could push each other. So now I do worry a little bit that the Cardinals might be run heavy, but overall, I think it's a pretty good game environment.
It has a pretty high total and also like a very close spread. So like, feels like a game that's like, it's gonna go off. They're gonna put up 65 points or whatever, and we're gonna be like, why the hell did I not just slam that game? I think I'm going to slam this game, all sides of it. I was gonna, are post-bye rookie bumps a real thing? Like, I've never actually looked at whether it is. Like, it makes sense to me that like teams would want to get their rookies more involved post-bye. I don't know if either of you have ever actually like done any research or read any research on whether it's a real thing, or is that just something we all speculate about?
Anecdotally, I would say yes, but it doesn't apply to Marvin Harrison Jr. at all because he was already playing a ton.
Yeah,
what happens is playing time will change.
Playing time, okay. Yeah.
It's not like target share goes up. It's like route share goes up.
Usually more playing time.
It actually did happen for Worthy. His target share did go up after the bye.
I think we got it for Rice too last year. Right? Maybe I just wanted it so bad that week. Then that was a different week that he actually emerged.
Yeah, but a lot of reasons. I mean, Harrison was already pretty involved, so certainly we can play him regardless of whether he's going to get that post-bye rookie bump. I think we've talked about all the players that I had interest in from this game. Did you guys have anybody else from?
I like JSN too.
Oh yeah, JSN, definitely playable. All right, let's move on to we already did the Niners and Packers earlier, so we went a little bit out of order there. The only game that we have left is the FanDuel only game, so it's the Eagles and the Rams. We just got news that Devontae Smith is out. We got it today. So
they traded a 3rd-round pick for Jahan Dotson, so surely this is the Dotson.
Yeah, clearly this will be the Jahan Dotson game. My God. The Eagles have an implied team total of 25.5. That's 6th out of 26 teams. The Rams implied team total of 23. That's tied for 13th on the week out of 26 teams. I know you guys do more DraftKings analysis than FanDuel, so you probably haven't looked closely at this.
Thank God to escape Saquon Barkley for a week.
I mean, in DFS, if you're only playing on DraftKings, at least the players that I wrote up for this game, then you guys can throw any other thoughts you have. But I wrote up Jalen Hurts, I think, is a pretty good target for this game. I think he's the highest projected player on the FanDuel slate. He's averaging 23.1 fantasy points per game. It is a fine matchup for quarterbacks. Rams have allowed the 19th most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. AJ Brown, I wrote up as a target, and no Devontae Smith only helps him, but 48 targets on 85.4% route participation in 7 games. I think Brown looks pretty good, one of the better point per dollar plays. Saquon is to me just an MME play because he's 10,000 on FanDuel. Obviously great role, but just very expensive. I wrote up Dallas Goedert. He was one of those plays that doesn't actually project that well point per dollar, but 6,100 is a fine price tag on FanDuel, and obviously Devontae Smith being out should help. And then on the other side, Kyren Williams and Puka Nacua, both targets for me. Kyren is only 8,300 on FanDuel. Puka only.
Dude, I think the Kyren faders were right, man.
You think so? Is he a punt returner? Did it come true?
No, it's all touchdowns, dude.
It's always been.
Always astronaut meme. So it's like, dude, he's basically just Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's like he's not efficient.
No, but he scores touchdowns.
He doesn't get really targeted in the passing game because he plays with 2 of the best target earning players in football. He had that little target run when the wide receivers were out because McVay was just, trying to deal with that, DeMarcus Robinson. I mean, DeMarcus Robinson, isn't he the play of the slate, Neil?
Love it. Yes, 100%. When both of the studs are healthy, DeMarcus Robinson 2 touchdowns. This happened 2 out of 3 games that Puka and Cooper Kupp have both played the full game.
You guys want to hear a stat that is technically correct? That is my favorite stat in the NFL right now.
Let's hear it.
Name the 2 wide receivers who have more touchdowns than Xavier Worthy.
DeMarcus Robinson.
No, Worthy has more.
Wow.
Worthy has 3 rushing touchdowns, so it really skews it.
There's only 2 wide receivers in the league that have more touchdowns. Rashad Bateman?
No. They're 2 first round. It's St. Brown and Chase. That's it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going
more touchdowns than Worthy. Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of nuts.
Wow.
That reminded me of
that's how good he is while being terrible. That's how good he is while being he's so athletic that he can actually be that bad at playing the position.
He's truly the Jonathan Mingo of Tyreek Hill. It's
100%.
He can't help it. He can't help scoring a touchdown.
He scored 20 points and 2 touchdowns in his first game, and it's been all downhill since then.
God,
very sad.
I don't know that I could have handled that if you just showed me the rest of his box scores. As I'm in Vegas, just delighted with his touchdown. If you just showed me what the rest of the season
this is a good question, and I think the answer is yes. Was I so happy in that moment when he scored the first end around that I would have traded that moment for everything that's come since then? And I think the answer is yes. I really think I remember telling my wife after that happened, I couldn't sleep that night. I was I legitimately could not sleep.
I love that.
And I told my wife, I was like, I think that's one of the 5 happiest moments of my life. No exaggeration. It really was because everyone in my life, I'm getting texts from high school friends who watch my YouTube. Like I'm telling you, it really was that great.
And he's been bad, but like he's had his moments since then.
He's
right?
had his moments.
Like you said, he scored the third most touchdowns
If
of all wide receivers.
If the field was a yard wider, he'd have 10 touchdowns.
He's tantalizing. Like he is. He's very fast. He gets targeted sometimes.
To be real for 1 second, he is actually much better than Hardman was as a rookie. Like watching Hardman as a rookie was like watching. He didn't understand space or anything. He was just fast. Worthy actually can get open.
Gadget guy.
Pure.
Yeah.
I think I just talked myself into 5K.
I think Hardman
is fine. Yeah.
Hardman's the Tyreek Hill of Sky Morris.
Oh yeah. No. It's he's the Tyreek Hill of Dexter McClusters.
Oh, okay.
You gotta go back to a different Chiefs gadget player.
Yeah.
All right, you lost me on that one.
That's a good point.
I don't remember Dexter McCluster. Cooper Kupp.
You don't remember Dexter McCluster? You don't watch college football at all, huh?
I don't watch college football. Yeah.
Okay.
McCluster was fun. He was like one of these running back wide receiver hybrids.
He was kind of Denard Robinson-y.
Those are my favorite showdown plays. The wide receiver, like the gadgety backup running back.
Andy Reid, and Andy Reid loves that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Andy Reid has had one of those guys forever.
Yeah. Do you guys have anybody else? Any other notes on Eagles, or like, are we going to Johnny Wilson at all? Is he going to become a thing with Devontae Smith out?
No, they're just going to split it. They're going to do well. Actually, what's been happening low key before is they're so sick of Jahan Dotson that they've been playing a bunch of 12, like way more 12 than they ever have in the Sirianni era. Because Calcaterra also played really well when Goddard was out, and I think they are like, oh, we should just use this guy more.
Yeah.
Not that he ever got there for me on DraftKings.com, but he did play very well.
Yeah, right. It was good blocking, good blocker in that stretch. Davis Allen on FanDuel, I didn't even look up.
So his routes trimmed back. Like I was about ready to be like, oh, it's buy low time, and it was actually Hunter Long, by the way, not Parkinson. But it's now if they're gonna rotate, it's just totally Jover.
Parkinson had the touchdown.
Yeah, Long had the routes. Yeah,
but Long ran 14 routes. Allen ran 16, and Parkinson ran like 9, I believe.
All right,
5. Yeah. I don't even have the other guys in here because they didn't get targeted.
Yeah. Yep.
Do we have any other notes from this game? Anybody else we like from? On a full slate, a little bit tough to get to anybody other than the ones that I mentioned. I mentioned all of the stars. Like, don't think you really want to get to Jahan Dotson or Johnny Wilson on a main slate. We'll talk about them on the showdown slate, but for a main slate, I don't really think there's anybody else we're too interested in. Okay.
I think just in general, the thing of this whole slate is like, if you feel good about a wide receiver, jam him because he's going to be like 8% owned. And that's just true of every wide receiver. They're all going to be about 8% owned.
Yeah. All right. So that does it for the game by game breakdown. So let's just do a little synopsis at the end. Starting with stacks. Who are our favorite stacks on this slate? We'll do stacks first and then favorite plays under 5% projected ownership. So starting with favorite stacks, who are you guys going to? Anybody come to mind?
I mean, honestly, my favorite was going to be Purdy, McCaffrey, Jennings.
Yeah.
I guess now my favorite stack is, I mean, is it May, A-Chain, any Patriots wide receiver?
Yeah. It's May, A-Chain. I think mine's May, A-Chain, Hill, Henry.
Yeah. I think that is pretty good.
So
I would add
double bring back. Okay.
Yeah.
I would add Kyler, Marvin Harrison Jr., JSN.
That was going to be mine. Yeah.
That's probably very chalky now.
At least the Kyler component of it. I think I'm mixed on like Trey McBride versus Marvin Harrison Jr. So like maybe even some double stacks of that, but like definitely love the Kyler part of it. And then JSN versus DK Metcalf versus Kenneth Walker as the bring back. I don't feel as strongly about, but I think I'm going to be running a lot of iterations of stacks from that game. Also Geno Smith, a bit chalkier, but also looks pretty good. I think that's just like a game stack that I'm going to be going after in a lot of different ways.
I agree. I think playing stacks in that Cardinals Seahawks game is pretty good. I am a little bit worried. The Cardinals have had pass rates of 40% and 46% over the last couple weeks, which definitely makes me nervous. But
Petzig really wants to run the ball. He's a Shanahan guy, and the 49ers the Cardinals offense craters when they get down by 10 because the whole offense is built off the threat of the run.
Yeah. So I think I prefer it from the Seahawks side because I have more faith in their, first of all, they're actually live to go like pretty pass heavy, where I don't think the Cardinals are. And then I also just have more faith in kind of the floor of pass volume that you're getting from them. But, I do like Kenneth Walker too. So I'm probably going to play a decent amount of Seahawks offense this week.
Yep. Another one that I know I like is I'll be going to some of the Commanders, Jaden Daniels, maybe Jaden Daniels with Terry McLaurin. I think is my favorite because I think it's the one that people are going to be less inclined to go to. I think a lot of people who play Jaden Daniels will be like, all right, paid up a quarterback, I'll pay for the cheap Noah Brown or cheap Zach Ertz. So I think it's actually going to be kind of pretty contrarian going Jaden Daniels with Terry McLaurin. So I think that's one thing that I'll do.
It will be. You're right about that.
Yeah.
So
which is kind of, it's a good matchup. That's
Noah Brown revenge game.
Yeah, it's a good note from Stephanie. It's 3 teams to go now for Noah Brown, or just 2 maybe?
No, just 2.
Okay. Yeah, so it could be.
A lot of this week does feel like passing offenses that if they decide to pass will do well.
Yeah.
But they probably won't decide to. And so you're going to there's a lot of cases where we're going to have to make that leap of faith.
The Chiefs is the biggest one by far. They can just do whatever they want, but most likely it's just going to be.
I think that's, by the way, kind of not true. I think they showed against the Bills they can't do whatever they want. They're not good enough.
It's the Panthers, though.
Yeah, it's the Panthers.
Yeah. So that was okay. That was the other note I wanted to make, and then we can get out of here. The Chiefs last week, it was the most 12 personnel they played all season. It was the most snaps and routes that Noah Gray's ever played. And why they were doing that was this left tackle they have is terrible. He's awful. Mahomes is getting sacked at a league average rate, which sounds like, oh, whatever. For Mahomes is that's his superpower, is not getting sacked. His career sack rate is below 4%, which is it's unheard of. So they are just well, we gotta play Noah Gray and we gotta play Peyton Hendershot just to help the tackle.
David,
they're not gonna have to do that against the Panthers.
Did you see the timely news that we just got on that front?
Yeah, they just signed some guy I've never heard of. So
DJ Humphries to a 1-year, $4.5 million contract. Yeah, I don't know anything about him. So that's, I don't know. Maybe they'll change.
I would assume he's starting by I would assume he's starting by week 15, honestly, because this guy's terrible. Wanya Morris, he's a rookie, but he is it's really bad. Not to do too much of my Homer stuff here on the show, but it's really bad.
I always say there was also a lot of positive coach speak from Matt Nagy on Noah Gray. So he's really evolved, details, practice habits, all this. Had a lot of glowing things to say about Noah Gray. So
I have Noah Gray as my only stack with Mahomes on a big dog team that is in 4th place. So
cross those fingers.
I don't know.
I don't know, man. Seriously.
Yeah. Could happen. Any players below 5% that you guys want to throw out before we get out of here?
Reed.
Like that call.
Montgomery.
Yep, Montgomery. I think Harrison's coming in a little bit higher than that. I think those are 2 good calls, though. I think Terry McLaurin might actually be sub 5%. So I guess there's a name, that I already threw out there that's right around 5%. Yeah, I don't know. I think we've named
Gibbs will be close to 5%. Those
will be close. Yeah,
those Lions running backs, just making sure you have a Lions running back, I feel is a good way to play it again.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, we're getting out of here, guys. Where can people find you? What do you have coming up for the rest of the week?
I will be live on YouTube Sunday morning, right around 9 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. Eastern for a couple hours. Come and hang out with me.
Hell yeah. Pat?
I've got the walkthrough is out, legendaryupside.com. Check it out. I did over on Blue Sky at Pat Kerrane. Went through a little thread of some of the nuggets from there if you want to check that out. We've got a bunch of content coming out on playoff best ball in the next few days. We're going to launch the playoff best ball sidekick here very shortly. See if it's today. I don't know. But imminently they're going to be launching the Playoff Best Ball Sidekick for all Sidekick subs, or if you're curious about checking that out, head on over to legendaryupside.com, and we'll have lots of we actually already had a podcast out earlier this week on the Legendary Upside YouTube channel podcast feed, and we'll have more written and podcast content coming out on that format, which is always a ton of fun.
Very nice, very nice. You can find my article on 4for4 right now. My tournament breakdown is on 4for4, and my cash game article will be coming out tomorrow on 4for4 as well. I should remind people, $24 for the rest of the season if you want to get access to the 4for4 DFS package. That includes both my tournament and my cash game articles. It includes Matt Savoca's showdown breakdowns, all of that. So you can find that there. And then, of course, I will be doing my showdown breakdown. The next one will be on for Sunday Night Football, 85 minutes prior to lock on my YouTube channel, The Flannelverse. Before we get out of here, my younger brother turned 38 this week, and we're celebrating his birthday tonight. Wants to know what time I'm coming over for dinner. I'm leaving immediately after the show, so I'll see you in about half an hour, Will. All right, that's going to do it for the show. We'll be back next week for the Week 13 breakdown. We might talk about the timing of that one. It's going to be on Black Friday, so might be a little bit earlier than usual, but we'll let you know prior to that show. Thank you, everybody. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll catch you next week.